Check out the scenes from earlier today. Sorry, Mrs. Cat, don't want to scare you. Earlier today, massive upset. Mr. Sasha Bublik, who, this one, I got to admit, this one surprised me a little. Mrs. Cat is out. He looks surprised if you look at that shot of Mr. Bublik's face. Well-deserved applause. Comment below if you thought Sasha Bublik would take out Mr. Draper. Speak to us.
You know,
this is good. Listen.
sometimes in life there's only one chance, and I had a feeling that was mine, and I couldn't let it slip. So, I mean, standing here is the best moment of my life. Period.
Best moment of his life. I hope he enjoys it. Enjoy it, Mr. Sasha Bublik, because pretty soon you're going to be living some of the worst moments of your life. If you're like me, you're excited to see Marat Safin joining the coaching squad for Rublev. Take a look. What do we do, says Patrick McEnroe. Winning 27% of the second serves, no breaks, 23 unforced errors. The only thing good about that is
being a bunch of champs. Come on, little. They gotta get a little more positive over there.
Marat Safin looked like that all match long. But hey, you can't blame him. Just thinking about that 23 unforced errors. At least it's Michael Jordan's number, right? But it is bad other than that. You can't blame him. Take a look at this. This is what Casper Ruud said after he lost in Rome. This is kind of next level Scheiße, as they say in Deutschland. And it's as near as perfect that I witnessed. It was like playing a wall that shoots 100-mile-an-hour balls at you all the time. Now, later in the show, we'll go into some of the numbers behind Jannik Sinner's ground strokes. But those were, some of the reasons why early on I thought for sure, like, man, this guy's going to be number one in the world. This guy's going to be awesome. I saw the numbers and the spin and the miles per hour he was averaging on the forehand and backhand. And I saw the way he moved around, the way he slid. Then I found out, he has a skiing background like Djokovic, except he was maybe even a higher level skier than Djokovic. You hear that. You look at the way the guy's moving. You look at the really long arm and the arms and the wingspan. You think like, yeah, this guy, why wouldn't he win majors? Another victim of Jannik Sinner, Yuri Lehechka, he said, I felt like I'm playing against myself, but except he's 2 times better at everything. I just got my ass kicked today. He went into more details. The crowd was amazing. It was kind of funny that they were cheering for me like that. I think it was more ironic for me in that moment what to do. I just got my ass kicked today. He was better in everything. He's the world number one. If I would lose a match like that to a qualifier, I'd be much more pissed off about it. Even his coach came to me after the match saying that Jannik was playing very, very well today. It is how it is. I love that. Yannick's coach had to go apologize for the beatdown. That's kind of new to me, watching Grand Slam tennis. Anyways, let's go back to that quote, though, because I did like what Bublik said. So put that on the screen, the quote. Sometimes in life, there's only one chance, and I had a feeling that was mine, and I couldn't let it slip. The best moment of my life, period. And, I've been, if you're like me and you love tennis, you've probably noticed that Sam Querrey, I think he's the guy who started it. He got Jack Sock, Stevie Johnson, and John Isner to join him for a podcast called Nothing Major, because obviously all 4 of them never won a major. And they had Richard Gasquet on, and they asked a question that interests me very much. For years, in the beginning of my time watching tennis, when Fed was dominating, I heard it's a weak era. Fed's only breaking records because it's a weak era. And then years later, I hear Djokovic is only setting records because he's playing in a weak era. So they didn't ask him exactly, is this a weak era? But they said, how do you compare today, the top 10, even the top 100? I'll play the clip. You'll hear it. But how do you compare it to back in the day when you were in the top 10, Gasquet? Tsonga was in the top 10. I think he said maybe threw out the name Berdych was in the top 10. People like that back then. Take a listen.
In today's game than compared to when the top 10 was, yourself, Berdych, Tsonga, compared to now where it's guys like Casper Ruud, Medvedev, and Holger Rune. What are the differences in style, play, and do you feel like one generation was tougher than the other?
It's always difficult to answer it. What I would say, for sure, the top now, for sure, before to win a Grand Slam, I think it was very, very difficult, with a big four, it was crazy, it was you have to win Murray's and you have to win Djokovic and you want to. I was in the semis, I remember my first time I was in the semis. I was in the locker room. I was with my coach and seated close to me to play. It was Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal. And I told my coach, "Fuck, it's not easy, to win. I mean, semis, but
that was the final four, his first
semis. So now,
semis.
of course, you have more chances. Of course, there is Sinner and Alcaraz. They're still young, 21, 22 years old, so they can be very big in the future. But for the moment, now I would say, Mensik won, Casper won, who won in a Draper, won in Indian Wells. So it's open now to win a Grand Slam. It's open now. It's more open than before. Before, to win a top 5, it was impossible. With these guys, it was impossible. So now everybody's playing good. I think the top 100 is better for me. So the guy who is with 100, with 200, is better physically. He's strong. He's stronger. But if I have to say, Rafa is playing now against the French Open. With this level of 2006, I think it would win today, and we are 20 years ago. So
that's quite a statement there.
Yeah, I think the top 4, it was unbeatable for me.
So if you're having a hard time understanding the French accent, I will translate for you what Richard Gasquet has said, because I, in fact, am an expert in reading European accents when speaking Anglais. Anyways, I thought it was very interesting that he said, yeah, for sure, the top 100 in general, like the guy who's 100 in the world today compared to back then when Gasquet was top 10, he's better. He's physically stronger. He's more solid all around. We see serve data that says these guys are all serving harder on average now than they were 10 years ago even, maybe even 5 years ago, Zverev has recently said that the top 20 of Tsitsipas, but, take that with a grain of salt because Tsitsipas is getting beat everywhere he goes. He's not in a good place right now. We're saying the top 20 is so much tougher compared to, I think Tsitsipas said, compared to like 2018. So 7 years ago. But the top 4, that level, you heard Gasquet, he said, if your goal back then, 10, 15 years ago, if your goal is to be top 5, it's impossible, right? That level, because Sinner and Alcaraz are so young, even though they're breaking all these records and they look so dominant already, they're still not there. So it's the most open it's been since the lockdown freaking 2 decades of the big 3, big 4, throwing Murray in there as well because he was winning, everywhere. When he wasn't playing the big 3, he was winning year after year at all the big tournaments all the time. So give him some credit there. But I thought that was very interesting. Going back to Sasha Bublik, we circle back. As Gasquet pointed out, this is the most open it's been. You have a small window here. Maybe you'll get one shot if you're a Sasha Bublik. Maybe he could pull off another. I doubt it, but maybe. He's got weaponry. He's got a great drop shot, really useful here at the French Open. Maybe Zverev, maybe this could be his one chance to grab a major. He wants it at the French. He feels most comfortable there. Maybe this isn't his best because I think Wimbledon is, but maybe this is a great chance while they're still young for Djokovic. He's looking good. After all the struggles of this year, he's looking great all of a sudden. Maybe this is Djokovic's one of 2, counting Wimbledon. Maybe this is Djokovic's chance to take a shot and get another major, break that all-time record. We shall find out very soon. In honor of Gasquet, who has retired, a very spinny backhand with one hand to kick off the show. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I am your humble host, Matt Bradshaw. It has been a while, but the excitement of Grand Slam tennis, there's just no way I could be held back from this microphone and coming back to do a video after so much time away. After some of the dominating blowouts we have seen from Jannik Sinner, he feels unbeatable. And especially when we see Alcaraz. Yes, he is the favorite here, but we see Alcaraz with these lapses in concentration. What the heck happened with Zoom Zoom Zoomer the other day, huh? Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, since Sinner won today in such dominating fashion, he looks so unbeatable. Put this on the screen. This comes from Marion Bartoli. And this is something I've been talking about for years. In fact, right before Sinner won his first major, I was predicting maybe he won't because I still see him getting cramps in the legs and not being able to go in a really, really long battle and win in a Grand Slam final. Not quite yet. Needs to just beef up the legs a little more. But I was wrong. My timing was off. It still is a fact, though. if Sinner doesn't blow you off the court quick, the 4 hours and 30 hour mark, 4 hours 30 minute mark is a bit of a fatal bar for Sinner, according to Marian Bartoli. Beyond that, he starts to get stuck physically, but we have to take him beyond 4:30 of play, 4.5 hours of play. Well, Alcaraz could do it. Djokovic, I think, can do it. Zverev can do it. But the guy can't blow you off the court. And Sinner, I mean, he's looking very mentally tough. I would say he is more mentally tough than Alcaraz at this point. Then we go to Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz has reached 100 wins on clay in 119 matches played on clay, not just the French, but on clay in general. And that is an incredible stat. That's the fastest ever, except for one guy named Rafa Nadal who did it in 112, just 7 less matches. Now, Carlos always does well on clay. He's a favorite for a reason. I think of Nadal when I was watching Carlos with Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton was playing pretty amazing. You know, that was a great match. And Shelton was hitting so much firepower. And when Alcaraz, like Shelton had all those chances in the first set in that tiebreak, he was way ahead. He had big chances. He was playing great. And when Alcaraz needed to, he went into like a clay lockdown mode, just like Rafa. Every forehand is finishing over his head, Rafa style. He's not going to miss. He's hitting it heavy with a ton of spin. And he's hanging in when other guys are getting nervous. So I do love that. About Alcaraz on clay. That is a part of the success formula. But like I said before, I do think Sinner is a little mentally tougher. And of course, Djokovic, mentally tougher at this stage. We have seen Carlos get fragile at times. It was interesting to hear how after the Nadal retirement ceremony, shout out to Rafa. I love that they gave him the little plaque on the court that'll be there forever. Djokovic said, part of why he struggles recently is Nadal retiring. When Nadal retired, that was pretty tough on him. If you think about it, Nadal retired. What was his basically his last match was that Olympics match against Djokovic, and then Djokovic went on to win the Olympic gold, and then he hasn't really done anything ever since. And he said it's been hard on him mentally to be motivated with seeing the whole Big Four at the ceremony for Rafa, with those guys all gone now. And Alcaraz said something similar, maybe it's just a way to cover up, like Zverev, major choke. Zverev could have been number one while Sinner was out for the suspension, didn't come close to doing it. And Alcaraz, too, maybe that's a way to kind of cover up how he blew it, but he said, Sinner being gone, that hurt him mentally, not having a Sinner there. Anyway, so Alcaraz obviously is still the favorite, but the way Sinner looks, the way he can lock down, I don't know if doing a bunch of buggy whips in a row will be enough if Alcaraz, has a lapse in concentration like we have seen him do already at this tournament. We'll dig into the stats a little more. This win ensured Alcaraz became the third youngest player in the Open era to reach the men's singles quarterfinal in 4 consecutive years at Roland Garros after Mats Wilander and Rafael Nadal. He's claimed the 75th career win over an ATP top 20 opponent since rankings were first published in 73. Only Jimmy Connors achieved that in fewer matches than Alcaraz, in 109 versus 91 for Jimmy Connors, 109 for Alcaraz. And arguably the most impressive record after this was the statistic that he has recorded 100 ATP level wins on clay en général, not just at the French Open, on all clay tournaments, which is, we just read that earlier, almost the same as what Rafa has done. Then they go on to quote Mats Wilander in this article, and I thought this was very interesting, so I'm going to read for you everything Mats Wilander said. The reason I say this, what did he say? I can't remember what he said, but we'll start there. The reason I say this is Alcaraz is such a complete player, and he has so many options every time. Oh, he says he's more talented than Sinner. Comparing Alcaraz and Sinner, they're obviously two major favorites here. The two major favorites. The reason I say that Alcaraz is more talented is he's such a complete player. He has so many options every time he plays a shot. I once remember Roger Federer saying, yeah, of course Lleyton Hewitt will have more success than me. Remember, Lleyton Hewitt had a big lead on the head-to-head early against Federer. That's not the case with Sinner and Alcaraz, but we'll continue with the comparison here. He had more slams and winning head-to-head against Roger, and then once Roger kind of mastered his game and put all the pieces together, because, Hewitt's kind of simple. You know what he was going to do all the time. He's fast. He's going to grind you out. He hits a good ball, but not capable of what Roger can do. He's not going to hit drop shots. He's not going to come to the net and have incredible hands. So when Roger put everything together, Lleyton Hewitt, I don't think he beat him ever again. Maybe he got one more win in the rest of their head-to-head. Pretty amazing thing. Anyway, so going back to that, Federer said, yeah, of course, Lleyton Hewitt will have more success than me to start with because he's one-dimensional. Compared to me, he doesn't have all the shots. And Carlos is like that. He's comparing, Mats Wilander's comparing Carlos to Federer. They're saying, it might take a little more time for Carlos to figure out shot selection. It really comes down to when is he going to hit the right shot, since he can hit every shot. This is why, going back to Mats Wilander, this is why Jannik is ranked number 1 in the world. He doesn't have so much variety, and therefore he's more consistent. It's a more straightforward game for Jannik. So he's saying like he doesn't have to think as much. He can just do what he does best, maybe work in a couple drop shots and go to net a couple times to make Coach Darren Cahill happy. So we talked about those guys, their favorites, obviously. Now let's look at a stat that Djokovic set, because this guy sets a stat, like he breaks a record almost every week. 112 wins in total at Roland Garros. Djokovic now has 100 wins. He's catching up. I don't think it's impossible for him to catch Rafa, but you just think about how much Rafa dominated. All the health issues and injuries Rafa ever had, he always prioritized the clay season, especially being ready for Roland Garros. So just goes to show you the longevity of Novak Djokovic. Getting pretty close to Rafa's win mark at the French Open. These are the only 2 men in history, we're in France, so l'histoire, to get 100 wins or more at the French Open. Not on clay, on general, like Alcaraz, at the French Open. Pretty amazing stat. So, of course, Djokovic, it's not impossible to say he could do it here, even if we think Wimbledon is a better shot. Let's look at Sasha Zverev. Many call him the greatest player in history to not win a major. Zverev is now the only player outside of the big 3 to make it to the Roland Garros second week for 8 consecutive times. If anyone's going to be able to do it, and it's not Djokovic, I mean, we're running out of players in the draw, but you get my meaning here. Like all year at all the majors, this has got to be one of the guys who could do it, like Gasquet was saying, who could take a shot while it's a little open before Sinner and Alcaraz get even better and lock it down big 3 style. No guarantees that happens, but of course it does look like it is going that way. Now let's dig into those numbers I was talking about earlier, because this stuff's really interesting to me. So first off, since the start of 2024, Sinner's only lost 7 matches. First top 5, he's lost 5 matches. 4 of those are against Alcaraz. He's lost, who else has he lost to? He's lost to Tsitsipas, lost to Rublev. Obviously, that's not going to happen again anytime soon after what we just saw today. Versus people who are top 10 but not in the top 5, he's 9-1. Only 1 loss. Did Casper Ruud get him once? I can't remember who got him. Other than you got those 4, you got 1 with Tsitsipas, you got 1, maybe Zverev. I don't know. I'm missing 1. I only can think of 6. Top 20, he's only lost 1. If you're not in the top 20, Sinner has not lost to you in a year and a half. Now, before we go into these numbers about speeds and spins, I was fortunate because of this podcast. Thank you to you, everyone who watches this, to make the numbers on the views high enough for them to consider me. But Christopher Clary, big-time tennis writer. He's been writing forever, covers all the Grand Slams, all the big tennis. Great tennis writer, covers for the New York Times. He wrote a book, and I got an advanced copy because I have this tennis YouTube channel. So they sent me a copy. I've been reading it. I'll talk about it. I haven't finished it yet. So when I finish, I'll talk about it some more. But one thing that was very interesting to me was talking about how they're pioneers, Rafa and Roger. And I've heard from so many people. Okay, not so many. I've heard from 2 different guys. So many people. I've heard from a couple different guys who got to be hitting partners with Rafa and Roger and Novak. And multiple times, actually. I think both of them had hit multiple times with all 3 of them at the Cincinnati Masters. They always need good college players, ex-college players who can hit the ball well to go out there and be hitting partners. And they always say, like, you don't realize the action on the ball of not just Rafa. You know about Rafa, right? But Federer's too. Like, those balls are heavy. They're fast, and they have so much spin, they jump at you. And Djokovic is different because the weird thing about Djokovic is his shots seem kind of average top 100. I know that seems crazy, obviously Djokovic, but they're saying like the action on the ball. Like Djokovic hits a flatter, less spinny ball. His depth is not average for top 100, right? He keeps that ball deep better than anyone ever maybe. But just the spin on the ball and the speed, it's not going to bother you like Roger and Rafa could. It was Djokovic's movement and his balance where you could, same with Sinner, it's really hard to hit a ball good enough to where he can't get to the ball and hit a full deep stroke because he's on balance. Anyway, so the book's called The Warrior, Rafa Nadal and His Kingdom of Clay by Christopher Clary. And one of the in the first like 30 pages, around page 30-ish. They start talking about how this guy named, I think his name's John Yandel, if I'm remembering right. Back in the early 2000s, he started measuring these top players measuring the ball at 120 frames per second. So it's easier to see what's happening compared to video that people would have shot before that. And he could see how much rotations RPM was on the ball. And what he realized was Nadal and Federer are hitting way more spin than Sampras and Agassi, the two guys that dominate before Nadal and Federer started dominating, right? And the one thing that was weird was that other guys had hit really spinny balls before. It's not like it never happened before, but they weren't matching the power, right? Roger and Rafa were hitting way more spin than Agassi and Sampras in their dominant days, but they're also hitting the same miles per hour. The spin slows it down. So it was incredible that they're hitting the ball so hard with so much spin. They changed the game. So Rafa was famous for, I think he revved it up, his forehand as high as 5,000 RPM at some point, but average was more like 3,200. Roger was around 2,500. Djokovic was much lower then, but now he's added spin over the years to his forehand. It's more like 2,300-ish today. So let's look at some of these numbers. First off, Sinner's average for last year is good, really good. This is unbelievable. Sinner tonight, when he destroyed Rublev, average speed 83 miles per hour on the forehand, 3,379 rotations per minute. That's higher than Rafa's average, and 8 winners. That's not the important part. So if we look at last year, Sinner was averaging 80 miles an hour, which was 5 miles. The average for the tour last year was 73 miles per hour on the forehand. Sinner was averaging 78, of course, 83. That's 10 higher than the average from last year. I don't know what it is for this year. And the average spin rate was a little higher than what Federer was doing 20 years ago. 2,708 forehand spin. And the average for Sinner last year was 3,041. Of course, he's kicked it up another 300 and change. That is incredible. I wish I had Alcaraz's for you, but I don't have it here. So that just helps you understand when Casper Ruud says, I feel like I'm playing against a wall who hits the ball 100 miles an hour back at me every time. Even if the ball is not, he's averaging 83. It's not 100. But with all that rotation on it, feeling like a Rafa Nadal forehand, yeah, all of a sudden it feels like 100 miles an hour all the time. Let's go to the draw. So my apologies, this is not updated, but we'll fill you in. Obviously, Sinner took out Rublev. Bublik, the big surprise, took out Draper. Greek Sport, tough matches with Zverev in the past. Thought that this would be a close one. And Zverev got him with the injury, so almost like a walkover. He played like a set in a few games, and Greek Sport couldn't continue. And Djokovic destroyed Cam Norrie. I like my draw was pretty good. I don't have a picture of it, but I'll do it in one of the next videos. Put my draw in there so you can see what I had. But I had Hubie Doobie losing early because of what Djokovic did to him in Geneva in that final. And I also knew after Djokovic got him, sometimes it's hard to beat somebody who's pretty good twice in a row, back to back. But after the year Djokovic had and he handled Norrie in Geneva, thought for sure he'd get him pretty easy here, and it was very easy. I mean, Djokovic is playing the best he's played since the Olympics, so that's a great sign for the Joker fans and for Team Novak. Is he good enough to beat Zverev here? It's not like Zverev's had the best year ever or had a good run up in the clay court season coming into here. I think it'll be a tough match, but I'm going to go with Djokovic. In my draw, I did pretty good. I had these guys. I had Draper and Sinner. I had Sinner getting through Draper, but thought that could be a tough one. And I might have left it blank because I wanted to see how they looked through the draw. But yeah, I'm comfortable putting Djokovic ahead. That's going to be a tough one. I could see that going, at least 4 sets. Sinner over Bublik. Yeah, you get one shot in life sometimes. And maybe this will be his one shot. I don't know. Look at this head-to-head. Djokovic kind of owns Cam Norrie. He got him 6-4, then lost the second set in the tiebreak, but finished it 6-1. It's pretty good. 6-4, 6-4, 6-3, 6-4, 6-2, 6-1 the first time they met up. They had 4 sets at Wimbledon back in 22. I remember that match. So that not a big surprise. Now look at this one. This is a big old head-to-head we have here. Djokovic not 100% when he lost his Zverev. Obviously retires after a set, the Australian Open. You know, he gave it all he had. He wanted to win that first set if he was going to keep going. After he didn't, he pulled out of that match. If you remember, going back to January. Took him out in Cincinnati a couple years ago. So, you know, they haven't played a lot in the last 5 years. Only 2 matches out of the last 5 years, and one of them at the beginning of this year. U.S. Open, that match, that was when Djokovic was going for all 4 in 2021. And that long match, I think, took it out of him and kind of helped Medvedev get his one and only major, which is one of 2 majors of all players born in the 90s, the lost generation, thanks to the big 3. And now Sinner and Alcaraz are doing their best to keep those guys lost forever. Tokyo Olympics, remember that one? Yeah. So it was that when Djokovic threw the racket into the stands? All right, so let's look at the bottom half of the draw. These are the matches we got for tomorrow. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. Musetti and Tiafoe. Now, I've been watching TNT coverage. I like it. They got Coco Vandeweghe. I think she does a really good job, actually. Chris Eubanks. I like listening to Chris Eubanks break down tennis. They got Sam Querrey in there. I love Sam Querrey. I think he's so funny with the the Nothing Major podcast. I love that, man. That show is great, dude. I love it. Anyways, they're Americans. They're really big on Tiafoe. Chris Eubanks was saying Tiafoe is playing the best I've ever seen him play. He's going to beat Musetti. I'm not so comfortable picking Americans over experienced European clay court players who have been doing well in the past at the French Open and on clay, right? But Tiafoe is playing well. He is one of only 3 players. Zverev has only lost 1 set, but only 3 players have lost 0 sets thus far, and that would be Sinner, Djokovic, and Tiafoe. Tommy Paul and Alcaraz. Let's look at this because I said we had talked about Zoom Zoom Zoomer a little bit. It looked like Alcaraz had that match wrapped up, and then all of a sudden, Zoom Zoom Zoomer used his speed and the clay court surface that slows down the big shots a tiny bit, and he was able to get to every ball that Alcaraz hit, and he decided he wasn't going to miss, and he was able to get Alcaraz a little shaky. Well, Tommy Paul has beat Alcaraz in the past, and he can do the same kind of stuff as Zoom Zoom Zoomer. Tommy Paul is an incredible mover, super fit. He had some tough matches, but luckily he came through an easy one. I think it was 6-3, 6-3, 6-3 his last match. So he should have some energy for a battle. Now look at this head-to-head. Yeah, it's been a couple years, and it's only in Canada. They only, at least it's Montreal and Toronto. He beat him in both back-to-back years. Tommy Paul, first time they play in 2022, beats him in Canada. Revenge in Miami from Alcaraz, beats him in Canada again in 3 sets. Alcaraz gets him in Cincy in 3 sets. That was, I remember that match pretty well, actually. That was a battle. And then, a couple tie breaks back-to-back. It's always a battle. Alcaraz gets him in Wimbledon in 4, and then Alcaraz gets him in the Paris Olympics on clay. But this is best out of 5. Just like we saw Zoom Zoom Zoomer got blown away, and if it was best out of 3. But he was able to hang around and find his best stuff. You know, he went into lockdown mode, used his speed so he could get to any kind of shot Alcaraz was able to hit, including excellent drop shots. That guy was so fast. Tommy Paul could really work Alcaraz like Zoom Zoom Zoomer, except he's got a lot more firepower than Mr. Zoomer. With that said, I'm going to take Alcaraz. And it's a tough one because Tiafoe hasn't dropped a set. He is playing really well. I want Musetti to win because, take a look at this. According to Jim Courier, these are the best backhands, one-handed backhands in the top 100. And there's only 7 of them. There's only 7 of them total. But he thinks Musetti's got the best one. Altmaier, second best. Grigor Dimitrov, third. Shapovalov at 4. Of course, there's a few other. Chris O'Connell, Steph Tsitsipas, and Mpeshi Perricard, who what did he lose in the second round? I think he got the first round. I watched this match. I like watching him. I like watching him with his giant serve and then hitting his one-handed backhand. I hope he has a good career and can hang around because there's not many of these guys left. So I would love to see Musetti win and keep representing. Unfortunately for Musetti, the head-to-head, it's not great. If you look at the challengers, they played a couple times in 2020 on the clay. End of the year, right before this was the year that the French Open, because of the COVID year, got moved to October. So they played in Italy in some challengers and split them. Musetti got him at Acapulco. TFO got him in United Cup. I don't know, throw that one out because he retired to the injury or something. Rome on clay plays very similar. Musetti got him in 3 sets. Tifo and Stuttgart on grass, still 3 sets. Musetti likes playing on the earth, right? He had a good Wimbledon run last year, don't forget that. Cincinnati, fast hardcourt, 6-3, 6-2. That was last year. I like Musetti. I like Musetti to win. Am I biased just because he has a one-handed backhand? I hope that's not all it is. We will be back tomorrow to talk about those matches. We'll do a little update for you tomorrow. Maybe we'll take a look at my draw with my horrible handwriting. I'll take a picture of that and pop it in tomorrow. Fingers crossed. We need a one-handed backhand to keep representing this lost, beautiful art, the one-handed backhand. So I hope he wins tomorrow. See ya!